becoming a patent attorney, it has to be one in a million, I feel, just because not only did I not know any patent attorneys growing up, I didn't know any attorneys growing up. I didn't know any engineers growing up. I had never seen anybody who looked like me in those professions. For me, initially, and having realized that my parents were divorced and I had moved 1,000 miles from my dad, I did wonder at times whether there was something wrong with me as a child. Takes a hit on you as a child. I can remember, like wanting him to be there, wanting him to see the things I was accomplishing academically in my life. Just in, like, he said he'd be here, so I'm like looking out the window, every car that goes by, hearing it go by, and I could just see myself still looking out that window, the trailer as a kid, and listening to every car go by and thinking that's him. My grandfather became my everything. When I remember growing up and sharing my dreams and aspirations with him, he'd ask me what I wanted to be, and at the time it was computer engineer. And he taught me a few things that have I've carried on with me as an adult. And one is that family is very important. Two is that as a man you have to take care of your family. Right. And three is that hard work and dedication, it pays off. And no matter, who's looking at it, if you carry yourself in that way, then you'll generally be successful by anybody's terms. And moving from Detroit to, the country when I was, 6 years old, and having a lot more responsibility on my plate, whether it's, cutting the grass or going out and, plowing the fields and planting crops and taking care of livestock and chasing after pigs when they got out. I hated it growing up, but as an adult, I sincerely appreciate it because it's the work ethic that I've carried along with me, even into, more white collar work instead of blue collar work. It's that work ethic. It's that yearning to succeed and thrive and make sure that you're presenting as your best self and doing everything that you can for your family. And then seeing how, my grandfather, he was there until the day that he died, right? Like he, went to church one day and had a heart attack. And the one thing I can say is he died doing what he loved. And, that was a traumatic experience for me. And knowing that, we had such a close relationship, and me having left that morning without saying goodbye to him, that still gets me till this day. I tell him thank you. Just thank you for the lessons, the life lessons. Thank you for being hard on me when you needed to. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for treating me like one of your own sons. What he did for me is where I am, is why I am where I am today. Part of my legacy, or what I want to be my legacy, is around what I've been doing in the profession to help more underrepresented individuals, one of which being the Patent Pipeline program that the National Council on Patent Practicum runs, which aligns women and minorities with the training and resources they need to be successful at law firms. And we align them with law firms that are sponsoring the program so that they can be hired as technical specialists or patent agents. And the reason that this is life-changing is because they don't have to go to law school in order to do this. But merely just the engineering or science degree and the training we provide, we can get them paired up with a law firm, with a full-time job opportunity that traditionally pays around $100,000 per year for someone with this skill set. And so in being able to, put them present them with the opportunity to practice in a quasi-legal capacity, specifically in front of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and do patent prosecution and preparation work, that then catapults their ability to go to law school, because they have experience under their belt. They're working with legal professionals day in and day out. So it makes their law school admissions processes easier. It makes their networking, gives them the network that they wouldn't have otherwise. Yeah, I think part of this is sentimental for me, and wanting to document how I grew up, how I got to where I am today. What were the influences? Who were my influences that made that possible? I think the other purpose here is to really, showcase to law firms and corporate entities that, there's a lot of unmined, unearthed talent, especially when it comes to underrepresented individuals and their backgrounds and the things they've gone through. And a lot of us typically just don't receive the same types of opportunities as our non-minority counterparts do, right? A lot of the things that we've experienced growing up are sometimes held against us. So, for instance, first-generation college students, first-generation grad students, a lot of times in the African-American community, when you're ascending kind of beyond your family and the things they've done, your family looks to you for a lot of support as well, right? And so having to provide that support, whether it be financially, emotionally, or even spiritually, right? It takes a lot out of you. It could possibly take a toll on you. But then how you're perceived from, let's say, corporate entities or law firms is, oh, well, they had this issue here, or they weren't up to speed, here, or they didn't perform perfectly, or they didn't go above and beyond when it comes to their education or their job responsibilities and things of that nature. So it puts us in this weird limbo to a certain degree, where you're trying to do all you need to do for the family and help them to, sometimes survive. It gets as serious as that. But then on the other end, having to then put on this face and go out and still try and conquer the world and, make sure you're perceived a certain way by corporate America and law firms. And a lot of times they're just not giving you the credence or the benefit of the doubt, as it were, when it comes to some of those things in your background. Again, I can look back and thank South Carolina and UMSC and Walterboro for kind of the slower life, as it were. And some of my family members in Detroit, they're not living, they're not in the best of situations. And having to go through that, I know I would have been a completely different person. It's bittersweet, right? It's the feeling of triumph and having made it out of those circumstances. But then there's also the feeling of, I still have family in those circumstances. I'm Braxton Davis from UMSC, South Carolina, by way of Detroit. I'm a patent prosecution attorney, and I work for Meta as Associate General Counsel and the National Council on Patent Practicum as the Executive Director.